Hi, this is Rachel Kinnett, and this is my case study on the copyright and the computer regulations governing technology. For summarizing the case study, this is a small rural town with a single school serving kindergarten through 8th grade students. Approximate student population is 420. There are 2 teachers per grade level, 2 special education teachers that service the entire school. They do get state allocated money, but beyond that, they have limited school funding. The annual PTA school budget, which is consisted of 2 fundraisers for the year, that sets aside budget, helps pay for basic materials needed by the teachers and purchasing software or computers. So in this case study, the school librarian specialist, Mrs. Lynn, has made multiple copies of 4 computer programs that are copyrighted that were on the computer lab computers for teachers to use in their classroom. 2 third grade teachers were given copies, and one of the 3rd grade teachers, Mrs. Brandon, did not accept the copy and shared concern about copyright violations. Mrs. Lynn was not concerned and stated that their school needed to make every penny count. Mrs. Brandon went to the school principal with her concern. So Mr. Sample, the school principal, asked Mrs. Lynn about the copy. She proudly confirmed and stated how she was going to save the school money and get more technology into the classrooms. Mr. Sample commended her on that thought process, but stated that the copies were a violation of the copyright and they needed to be collected. Mrs. Lynn defended her reasoning and still felt that nobody was going to know they're a small rural town, and there's just a few copies being made. That even the PTA president was thrilled that she was making the copies and was there to help. So I do see that the staff do appear to be working collaboratively with the parents and community to give students access to the technology to enhance their learning experience. There just may have been some lack of understanding regarding limitations, maybe on the teacher side and on the PTA side with the PTA president. Legal issues that can become of this is the classroom teachers and the PTA president, in addition to Mrs. Lynn, have directly been impacted as a result of making those copies and or using the copyrighted programs. There are some people that were involved and know where it took place. The students could possibly be involved in some kind of violation since they were using the copyrighted material. Fines and consequences could be imposed on those that did not directly make the copies. And the PTA president probably had no knowledge of the violation, so did not hesitate to help make the copies. In this case study, this violation and copying did violate the Copyright Act of 1976. So that means that permission beyond the license needs to be granted by the author, and that copies can only be done as an archival purpose or to replace a broken software. Another thing that would be a legal concern and an ethical issue is there was probably a breach of contract that may be in play for Mrs. Lynn and the classroom teachers if they signed a document such as an Internet Acceptable Use Policy Agreement that outlines the requirement of school employees to respect copyright and license materials. Due to previous violations of the Copyright Act, school districts are recommended to have those policies and procedures in place, as well as an agreement that is signed. So teachers are aware of the consequences of that. There could be some additional possible harm if the students and or their parents felt their students violated copyright laws as a result of their teacher. So possible consequences that are not a direct result of their actions, but could be that they get something as a result of their teacher's actions. So in a summary, Mrs. Lynn, a district employee, has committed violations of the copyright and license material as per the Copyright Act of 1976, as well as possibly per district policies, and distributed them to 2 classroom teachers. So our facts, we do know it's a K-8 school, 420 students. The teachers involved, we don't know how many teachers used the copyrighted material and whether or not the PTO was aware. It is a rural school, small city, closest city is 25 miles away. We don't know the district demographics, the physical state of the school, which state the school's in, or what the district specific policy and procedures are. We do know that they have limited financial support. There's only 2 teachers per grade level, 2 sped teachers. They have limited access to computers. It was stated that the copyright restrictions were noted on the computer programs. We don't know if it was a private or a public school, what type of curriculum is being used to meet through computer software, and again, those district demographics. So in reviewing this and prioritizing, I do think there's damage to the stakeholders some, that there are consequences of the violation that can be held against the school or the district and or their students. Possible loss of computers or software that was paid for by the PTA and accessed by the students would ultimately result in a loss of the latest technology. Important stakeholders in the outcome would be those involved, so the principals, the teachers, the library specialists, but there's also the district, the superintendent, and additional parents that could end up with some stake in that. All the stakeholders were not consulted with the initial purchase of the software. Everybody was aware, but when teachers began to ask about copies, they did not reconsult like the principal or the parents or the PTA about making those copies. Can I learn from this situation? Yes. It reminds me to review policies before completing such a task and run it by my administrator or supervisor for additional clarification and permission. Do I know enough to make a decision? Possibly. Ms. Lynn seemed pretty clear in what she did and owned up to doing it. The principal has the evidence, and the classroom teacher was very clear in stating that it was a copy and she didn't accept it because of its copyright. I think I'd probably want to know a little more about the actual copyright restrictions on the programs and whether or not the district had a policy in place that stated the consequences of copywriting material. Some possible options and outcomes. If I were to take action, I would support and model ethical behavior based on the school's policies and procedures. Communicate with stakeholders, especially in assisting them since they are purchasing a lot of programs, to kind of look for and be aware of copyright regulations. I could take a very comprehensive action. I look at comprehensive as more of a black and white, and we're going to be very specific and include everybody and go to the people we need to go to. That can include upper administration, lawmakers, the author of the copyright material, not giving any prior notification to stakeholders, taking care of the action on my own, and not taking in any other facts into consideration. To be more on the liberal side, I might discuss the violation with the stakeholders, make sure the copies are retracted, report the violation as per protocol, but take into consideration maybe it's a first offense, and make note of what can happen if done again. Immediate strategies, I would retrieve all the copies of the copyright material. I would review with staff and all stakeholders, including the students, the district regulation policy and guidelines for use of copyrighted material. Maybe discuss and share additional appropriate ways to support the students in accessing technology. Maybe how we can foster and grow their learning experience and development via the materials and technology we do have. Discuss and brainstorm ways that teachers can think outside the box to continue to challenge our students and to enrich their learning. And maybe include the stakeholders when discussing limitations of curriculum materials and technology as it relates to the world around our students. Maybe prioritizing as a team what is the most important and how can it be attained. So in looking at these options, retrieving all the copies of the copyrighted material, this stops the continued use, but really the con is the violation has already happened. Reviewing the district regulations, policies, and guidelines with stakeholders, I think this is a proactive step to following, proactive step following the violation to minimize it happening again, refreshes our mind on the specific topic of the infraction, opens to discussions for what it does and does not look like, and assists everyone in understanding the possible action. The con of that is it's too much, a little too late. With the purchase of new software, the policy should have been reviewed in the moment. So I look at that as communicating, examining as a staff and as a community can assist an administrator in determining where any misunderstandings or lack of understanding are rising, while also sharing how the law or the act is applicable and used in a constant, fair, equitable, and ethical manner. Next one would be to discuss and share additional and appropriate ways to support the students in accessing latest technology. The pros of that would be involving multiple people in these discussions brings the chance that someone is going to think is something someone else has not. Allows everyone to really see the big picture of what might already be available to them. The cons may still be difficult to see how to expand the students' resources without the funds, difficult in seeing the continued benefits of outdated technology. Discuss and brainstorm ways for teachers to think outside the box. The pros, more minds is better than just one or two, inspires teachers to look for ways to enrich their students, combine motivation and vision, everyone is in the same position. The cons, getting past the idea that money is all that is needed to enrich our students and maybe a hard buy-in to think beyond that. Including stakeholders when discussing limitations of curriculum materials and technology as it relates to our kids. Pros, we are all in this together. Better buy-in as they understand what the goal is for their students' education while also sharing the struggles. It makes us real, not just complainers. It may bring up options to the table that staff had not thought of, and it shares the limitations and adds the individuals to the problem-solving team. The cons of this could feel like there's too many individuals providing input, makes it hard to stay focused on the ultimate goal. If there's no buy-in, stakeholders feel it is more of a complaint session. Stakeholders don't see a need based on their immediate community their students are in. Maybe they have difficulty seeing beyond this town. As an administrator, I think my options and problem solving may stem from my beliefs and expectations, as well as district expectations and policies. However, I do still need to gather input from staff and stakeholders, validate and address their concerns and sharing points, while also keeping in mind what is best for the students and how we are going to continue to prepare them for college careers and life. Choosing the best option, I kind of went with a combo, retrieving all the copyrighted programs and review the district regulations, policies, and guidelines for use of copyrighted materials with all stakeholders, staff, and students. I believe this is something that just should be done. It does not overly advertise the consequence of the situation imposed on the staff, but focuses more on the solving the infraction. What can we do to make it better the next time? It then provides immediate action and how to inform all stakeholders of the why, and as well as the how to review future purchases of similar materials. Follow-up options of discussing alternatives based on the resources the school does have too, how to utilize those better, and how to gain access to additional resources in an appropriate and legal manner. So my proposed action plan, I would take disciplinary action taken for the staff that committed the infraction, appropriate and measurable to the offense as per the district policy and procedures, which may include contacting the author of the software programs, stop any additional copying and retrieve the copies that were already distributed. Meeting of building staff and stakeholders to review the policies and procedures and regulations and guidelines as they related to the specific copyright violation, sharing what has happened and how it has been remedied. What may happen, stakeholders are not satisfied with the consequence imposed on the staff, so reiterate the district policy and that is being handled based on these policies. Maybe not complete buy-in and understanding, small community and involved PTA, this fosters a strong trust among staff and community. When no good solution is determined, the school and the community feel we are not meeting our student needs. So who needs to know my action plan? Stakeholders, district administration, building staff as appropriate. Can I deal with the person involved, like warn, do not threat? As a school leader, it is my responsibility to ensure safety for my staff. This includes interactions that may cause hurt feelings, anger, or irrational responses. Keeping an empathetic ear while discussing the infraction, referring back to the district policies, eliminates some feeling that could result in a feeling of complete judgment. Keep in mind that it could be a first offense and the staff truly didn't remember the training, policies, and ramifications as they relate to the incident. Ensure the need for their safety as well as for the building staff and students as a whole. I feel as a building leader, I would use a situation like this to be reflective on my actions and leadership and determine if I am communicating often enough and in a purposeful manner to successfully support solid implementation of laws, rights, policies, and regulations for promoting student success as well as student success and well-being. What I would do next if my plan didn't work, my plan B may be to go more comprehensive in my actions. It could seem I was beating around the bush in the first option, may need to go all in and provide strict actions to the offense. Implied understanding of my actions may not be at all present, and it may need to be more specifically laid out. Bring it to the stakeholders and building staff after I've completed my actions and have a goal in place looking more at feedback rather than discussing how to handle it. As the building leader, I want to be sure to have my teachers feel supported and safe at school while also letting them know I have high expectations with ethical and professional presence. I will assist them in getting there through feedback, visibility, opportunities to be involved in professional learning beyond the school walls, emotional support, collaboration, and maintaining a strong and functional organizational system with solid and district support policies.